A fisherman just came out to catch a fish, but he accidentally pulled up something strange. A terrifying scream echoed from the net. The experienced fisherman quickly realized something was wrong. If it were any ordinary fish, it wouldn't have the strength to break free from the net. At that moment, the fisherman didn't grasp the severity. He thought it was just a rare deep-sea creature. What they didn't know was, a war between land and sea had quietly begun. A few days later, the British military bought the creature's body from the fisherman. Ancient texts and myths referred to it as a sea demon, but in the 21st century, the general preferred to call them water people. On the creature's neck, biologists discovered a pearl. They suspected it was like an ID for the water people, containing all sorts of biological information. But with current human technology, they could only detect a pile of calcium carbonate. Under the general's orders, the soldiers placed the pearl back where it was. Now that they knew an underwater civilization existed, they had to be cautious with their actions. Before leaving, seeing the water person hanging in midair, Buckley, who was with the general, felt a pang of pity. But he was just a clerk, with no authority to do anything, so he silently said a prayer for the creature. The general decided that Britain should be the first to extend a hand of friendship to the oceanic civilization. The research team had already developed a translation system based on the water people's vocal organs. It was still in testing, but it could handle a few simple phrases.
What was that, sir?
A translation pulse. We said hello.
Although there was no sign of movement on the surface, the water people had definitely received the message. Now, they just had to wait for a response from the ocean. That very night, as the soldiers prepared to turn in for the night, danger quietly closed in on the warehouse where the water person's body was stored. On guard duty were Sergeant Morgan and Private Dulara. They thought it would be no big deal, just watching over a salted fish. With security cameras around the camp, an alarm would trigger if there was an intrusion, but they didn't anticipate that the enemy would attack from below. Morgan went to get a cup of tea and noticed the soil under his feet was strangely damp. The two didn't realize the seriousness of the situation at first. Dulara reached for the radio on the table, but before he could react, the ground beneath him softened. Morgan, desperate to help, stepped onto the wet soil to pull him up, but was just a little too far to reach him. Finally, Morgan realized something was wrong. He grabbed the radio and called for reinforcements. The water people didn't stop them. Their mission had already been accomplished. Since humans had killed their kin, taking 2 lives in return seemed only fair. As the alarm blared, the soldiers quickly suited up and rushed to the scene. But when they arrived, they found the room eerily quiet. The only thing missing was the body and the soldiers. Buckley noticed something unusual in the corner of the room. Curious, he pulled at it, only to reveal a complete chair. The general's intuition kicked in. He grabbed the radio and called the soldiers' names. Static crackled over the airwaves, but the voice seemed to come from the ground beneath them. The general crouched down, repeated the soldiers' names again, and his suspicion was confirmed.